It's been 5 years since the Armenian Revolution. So was this a moment where Armenia became a democracy, or did it unchain a series of events that would lead to war? To discuss this and other related themes, I'm joined by the former Education Minister, Armen Ashotyan, who served under the previous administration of Serge Sargsyan, former president. So, Mr. Ashotyan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, start off with an icebreaker question. You have been critical of the post-revolution government, but I'm wondering, 5 years on from the Armenian Revolution, how would you describe the state of affairs Armenia finds itself in?
Thank you for this chance to speak about one of the most dramatic events in Armenian recent political history. Unfortunately, not only political history, because we can be concentrated on political affairs, issues, developments, if we hadn't this disastrous situation in the country. So it's a so-called revolution. I reject the term from the very beginning. I don't accept this term, this description, because it wasn't revolution. Operationally, it was coup d'etat, but in the essence, it was a fake revolution. So they promised revolution, and it was faked from the very beginning by its leadership when they announced 5 years ago changes of love, prosperity, solidarity, smiles, and happiness. And what we face 5 years after, it's a disaster, tragedy, drama, political drama unfolding before the eyes of the global political, in the global political environment. So it wasn't revolution from the very beginning. I had my doubts, and it's recorded at that time. And unfortunately, all our prognosis, forecasts, negative prognosis and forecasts became true. So we predicted from the very beginning that Nikol Pashinyan will not deliver what is his biggest problem in the eyes of the supporters of revolution. He didn't deliver. Moreover, he, in many senses, he acted at the contrary what he promised. So even not having in mind the Nagorno-Karabakh tragedy now, because it's a tragedy, the security challenges towards Armenian Republic itself, even, let's forget for the moment, what he promised, more democracy. We have no more democracy. Yes, Armenia raised for 2 years in international records, indices of democracy, but after what we are following, it's a backslide. And it's not only because of international reports. We can feel it ourselves. I am not only the former ministerial politician, I am acting politician, may I say without artificial shame, that one of the most proponent political party for the changes in Armenia now. And what we see now, it's politically motivated, falsified criminal cases against the leadership of opposition. We have this selective justice, we have abuse of law enforcement agencies, we have a rise of corruption amid Nikol Pashinyan's inner circle and its political team, recorded by everybody. I mean, the Transparency International, US State Department report on human rights. And even according to the public perception, let me remind you that 2 days ago, International Republican Institute published, American entity published the results of the survey, and Armenian society is diagnosing this state of disaster in all fields. I mean, backslide of democracy, fail of anti-corruption campaign, and plus this tragic, dramatic situation concerning Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenian Republic itself, Republic of Armenia itself. So if you let me to sum up this, your first question with the following: it wasn't revolution from the very beginning. It was faked revolution. Yes, it has its ground, a conducive environment. Nikol Pashinyan took a chance 5 years ago because the environment was conducive, I guess, for the raising expectations of the people. You will not deliver, you will not match. and his fairy tales about a prosperous and strong Armenia 5 years ago delivered from the square of the Republic in the heart of the Yerevan. Everything was a lie, everything was a manipulation, and it was a fraud, it wasn't revolution.
You mentioned the International Republican Institute, and in its poll findings, I mean, you are correct in mentioning that there was a whole swathe of areas where citizens were expressing their dissatisfaction. But in the area that was talking about your preferred political party or movement, his party still comes well ahead. All the other parties are polling very low, and we saw him win a big win in 2018 and another win in 2021. So why is he winning elections?
Very, very interesting question. It's very important. Yet it's important to speak about it honestly. So I don't want to pretend and deliver another hypocrite political speech here, because after the war, when I served as a military doctor in the hospital of Sisian, I deprived myself from the right, if I had any, to be a traditional politician, faking what I'm thinking and delivering what you are expecting to hear. No. Maybe what I am going to say will be painful for everybody, for opposition, for society, but this is my perception of the situation. So I guess that it depends how you analyze the poll results you mentioned. Yes, you can say, not you, one can say that, yeah, Nikol Pashinyan is still ahead. Okay. But let's compare 5 years ago. His level of public support was approximately 95%. So his political support 5 years ago was 95%. Now his personal support is 14, if I am not mistaken, and his political party support is 21, and even less in Yerevan. So it's a dramatic drop in the public perception and support for himself. This is clear. The second, he's not legitimate anymore because his policies are not accepted by the majority of the society in all senses, I mean. So these results are more delegitimizing him as a political leader of the country because he has no public support. His support is even less than Biden's and Macron's support, I guess. So why I say Biden and Macron, because they are also facing internal, local challenges in their countries and they are not delivering what they promised. So just to make a comparison, yeah, he is less supported in Armenia than Macron, even having in mind the pension reform or the fights on the street of Paris. The third one, coming back to the opposition. Traditional opposition, when I say traditional, I mean parliamentary one, is still on the second and third places respectively. I mean, the second place is the Armenia bloc, and the third place is the I have honor or Republican Party-led bloc now. Yes, the amount of the societal support is not enough to make changes. It's clear. So what I, as a doctor, could diagnose, looking at the chart of this survey, this question exactly, Nikol Pashinyan hasn't support of Armenian society, but nobody has. So this is a sign of dysfunction of political system. This is a sign of beaten expectations and mistrust towards politicians in general. So there is a demand. I see it on the charts when 70% approximately of respondents says that they are against everybody, they don't favor anybody. So there is a demand. On the market, political market, there is a huge amount of consumers, if you let me just switch to the market language. There is a huge demand in the market for the new ideas and new faces, maybe. So what we are talking about now, Armenians are disappointed in Nikol Pashinyan, but are not still ready to root for another man, women, idea, etc. Who will be able to fill this gap between the reality and the expectations? This is a question for opposition in general. So Will the traditional opposition be flexible enough to make changes in the strategies, in the front lines, newsmakers, ideas? I don't know. We as Republicans, I can speak on behalf of my party, we are trying to adjust our policies, adjust our public appearances to the results of, to the diagnosis that we are making. I'm not speaking on behalf of all positions. They are too different. We are too, our position is like, you know, Springfield, many colors, many types, many sorts of political animals, let me say, and who will be ready to fill this gap of expectations or build the brick in this rift of disappointment, because we have this very strong feeling of no future.
But isn't there also a pro-revolution opposition and an anti-revolution opposition? There are mayoral elections coming up this year in Yerevan, which many believe will be very, bitterly fought, etc., and could see the ruling party lose, according to some analysts. But my question is, isn't it possible to separate what happened in 2018, the revolution, with the Pashinyan government? Is it possible for someone to say the revolution was good, I support the revolution, but I don't support the policies of Pashinyan and his government?
Let's continue to be frank. When man or human being makes a mistake, he has a right to do it. He has a chance to learn from his own mistakes. If not, if he's persistent in his making mistakes, it's already not fair enough to consider this as a policy. It's more stubbornness and selfishness. I repeat the main idea. It was conducive environment for these dramatic changes in 2018, especially when you are looking retrospective. But when we are talking about future, so what is the need to make the same mistake several times? What is so-called revolution promised? Changes. Who will be able to deliver changes? When we heard from Pashinyan 5 years ago that either I will be prime minister or Armenia will not have prime minister at all, it should be a red light for the supporters for the revolution that this guy is dirty, this guy is not delivering ideas, he is fighting for his personal position in political Olympus for himself. Who made this, who had this change of mind? Very, very small amount of people. So yes, changes are necessary in all fields. When we are fighting for the dismissal of Pashinyan's government, we are not doing that because we want to bring back the past. It's impossible, because in past we have mistakes, but we have also achievements. So what we want to reconsider the political legacy of the previous years of Armenian independence, make a homework very honestly, have new conclusions, new action plan, and go to the future without cutting the past. And past is not, Pashinyan is trying up to now, blackmailing the past to give a second breath to its political presence. So this is very primitive strategy. It worked 5 years ago. Now, having in mind all these failures of Pashinyan's government, we can't indulge ourselves with the historical opportunity to make the same mistakes as a people, as a nation. And what I think, when you said pro-revolution opposition, let's be clear. Nikol Pashinyan formed for him most convenient opposition, calling them even more revolutionist than he is. And in this pocket, Nikol Pashinyan pocket opposition is not opposition, because yes, they are promoted by all state-owned media. By the way, yesterday, it was Reporters Sans Frontières report stipulating that state-owned media are not criticizing government at all. So what we have, do we have democracy? We can still criticize Sargsyan, Robert Kocharian, Levon Ter-Petrosyan for their decisions, for the situation, but it should be forgotten in the sense that Nikol Pashinyan promised to do better, to change it dramatically, to bring drastic changes. He did it? No, because when you follow the report, I again want to refer not to our assessment, even criticizing this report because they are not full covering all the problems that we have. But even international observers who are conducive to Nikol Pashinyan government, they are conducive. They are not able now to turn a blind eye on the critical situation in the law enforcement agencies, in the situation with human rights, media freedom, etc. So what I want to believe, I want to believe that Armenian nation is political from the very beginning, despite Nikol yesterday delivered in the parliament this, superficial. He's trying to be a deep thinker. Yeah, he's envy. It's. I think this is a psychological complex of a man who hadn't a good education. He is now trying to place himself as a deep thinker. Let's think, we are a political nation, why we have the state, we haven't the status of the Armenian kings, etc. Let's make a profound, deeper psychological analysis. He is not the guy, he can do it, he has no enough knowledge, experience, and conventional wisdom even.
Okay, well, I put it to you, Mr. Ashotyan, you described it that it was a so-called revolution, but we saw images on TV of hundreds of thousands of people in the streets, and there are some things that must be mentioned in the sense that this was a non-violent revolution. There was no violence, no one was killed, for example. 2 elections followed, both of which that international observers described as free and fair to the most part. There's been local elections since the revolution where the opposition has won in certain municipalities. You mentioned the Economist Democracy Index. There have been other indexes, Press Freedom Index that just came out showing improvements. Mayoral elections, as I said, in Yerevan this year, where the ruling party could lose. And like you said, if you deduct the amount of votes Pashinyan has lost in each election, he could lose the 2026 elections, the next parliamentary elections in Armenia. So, I mean, hasn't there been anything good that has come? Has there been any sort of democratization?
Thank you for this very complicated question, because you put apples, oranges, pears, plums in the same basket, and I will be forced to differ them and to make my reflections on each component. What you said from the very beginning, thousands of people, a lot of people, yes, this is revolution. When you see overcrowded squares and streets, is it revolution? Is it revolution is about the amount of the people or the ideas, or the promises or the agendas? What is a revolution? Revolution is, first of all, idea to change. Nikol changed? No, in the positive sense, almost nothing, almost. I don't want to blackmail everything, but we will come back to this question. So when you are mentioning this joy and laughs and the dances and the songs, I want to remind you that the revolution, so-called revolution, had 2 phases. What you mentioned was an export version of the revolution, translated by the media, making fake the environment of this love and solidarity feelings for everybody. No, it was just export version, because we have a local version also, version kept in Armenia, but it was a dark side of this revolution. All blackmailing, physical threads, all the coffins, all the black bandages, so all the things that were humiliating the political majority at that time. Okay, not majority, political governing class. It was humiliation, it was harassment, it was physical threats not only to the members of the parliament of the Republican Party, but to our family members. So it wasn't a revolution of love. It was a fake from the very beginning, because on one leverage was to translate, to spread this colorful fake reality, fake not by people. People, I'm pretty sure, truly believed what they fight for. But it was fake from the leadership side, because they used the dirty technologies, they used the blackmailing, harassment, bullying, and this is a part of this revolution. This is a part. If revolution is so good, where is a famously announced Netflix bought, I don't know, Toronto Festival film awarded Serge Tankian film? I want to see it. I am not alone. I want to watch this movie, and if it is so good, why exclusively Anna Hakopian bought the tickets to Toronto Film Festival to look at the premiere? And why we don't see it now? You know why? Because it's shame for the people to show it now, because reality now we are facing is so disastrous that it would be disrespect to the Yara Balur to show now this. No, I don't blame the people who believed in Pashinyan. I blame the people who still believe in Pashinyan. This is different, because when you believe in Pashinyan in 2018, you can be manipulated. You can indulge yourself with the hope, irrational hope, beliefs that something, the magic wand will come and it will change everything. It will make your hairs grow. It will make your daughter happy. It will make your sexual life better. I don't know, everything promised. Huh? But now when are inevitable to see the results of his governance, we can't believe that Pashinyan's political supporters, not middle class, not a lower middle class, sometimes they lack knowledge, experience to understand the situation. But coming back to the next component put in your question, what you said, non-violent, okay. Let's consider, if you consider no deaths, it was non-violent. Who should be commended for that? Pashinyan or Sargsyan? Violence is a prerogative of whom? Of the government, of the state, of the authorities. If this change of the administration was non-violent, who should be praised for that? Who? The former government. And the international embassies, US, EU, all praised the very heroic move of Serge Pashinyan to step back, not to provoke further escalations and spill another Armenian blood on Armenian soil. It was, if somebody should be commended, it should be former President Serge Sargsyan for non-violent revolution. So-called revolution. Elections. Yeah, you can use this argument. It's written. It's fixed. Elections result. I don't even want to go in details what kind of elections we have in 2018, how you can consider the democratic, to be democratic, the elections organized during a sparkle of euphoria. It's like, sorry for this comparison, it's, I want to speak very natural and frank, it's like making a promise to marriage during the orgasm. It was democracy. Is it the promise to marry during the intercourse, expression of pure love, or it may be just some hormonal things? The same situation was in 2018. It was the same situation, euphoria. it wasn't democratic by the nature, the fact of this election at that time, because if you remember, Nikol Pashinyan brought the first elections, again breaking constitution surrounding National Assembly, October 2nd events, pushing a crowd on the members of the parliament, forcing them to make decisions which are not driven by their conscience as written in constitution. So the second elections, Armenia didn't need it. My party was against, because after the war, after this apathy, widespread apathy, during the pain not healed, when society and the families, the thousands of families were wounded by the war, recent war, you can't have democratic elections. What kind of democratic elections? Where the leader of the government were traveling through the remain territories of the country with a hammer, speaking to the journalists or the citizens, saying, "But I will them." You remember that? You remember that? So it was a democratic election? No, not at all. I don't want to speak about the quality even after what I mentioned. It's just the first layer, what I could go, and I could go deeper. But let's consider they are democratic. Let's consider that in some fields, yes, there are changes, even positive changes. But I will bring another medical example for you. Okay, somebody is ill, very bad diagnosis, bad forecast in general. There is a tumor, but doctor is proud that the level of insulin in the blood is good. The patient is dying, will die because he doesn't get a proper treatment, but another doctor is very proud that the color of skin is rosy. So what we are comparing? We should compare the vital parameters, not the things that, okay, are very good that the level of insulin is normal, but the patient has a tumor. He needs another doctor. He doesn't need only the doctor who is measuring the level of calcium ions in the blood. So sorry to be very medical, but just to bring you an example, situation is bad, but the chief of the hospital is translating to the relatives, to the patient that, oh, you know, your patient eyes were so bright when he opens it. Okay, maybe he opens his eyes last time. Yes, they were bright. So Pashinyan is not, and his team are not the doctor squad, the medical squad Armenia needs. When I say Armenia in this sense, I mean Artsakh included, because despite all the efforts from Nikol Pashinyan's government to change Armenian perception of Artsakh as a part of larger Armenia, then what he promised several days ago and several years ago are in contradiction. What he said in Shushi during inauguration ceremony of new elected Artsakhi president, he said, the Velvet Revolution will bring a huge opportunity for Artsakh people self-determination right recognition. So what he promised that 3 or 4 months before the war started. So even if he's mistaken, if he's not driven by the deceitful or treacherous, from my perspective, ideas, even he's honestly stupid, let me consider it, he's still stupid. He should be replaced, because this level of diplomatic illiteracy, he already proved that could be paid by the lives of Armenian soldiers. Several days ago, in the party office, I hosted mothers of the missing people, missing soldiers. We have more than 300 missing people, missing young men, youngsters. And I was shocked because, for many reasons, when you look at these eyes of the mother lost the son, and when this mother is telling you the stories, how arrogant are the ruling class, they are trying to knock the door. So you can't believe that Armenian nation could produce any kind of son of each like that. Not speaking about bringing them to the power. So just human stories, this is a family story, not only for this lady, for the lost soldier father, for his sister or brother. This is our family stories. So yes, we can still mingle around the Northern Avenue, making some chardonnay or bringing the joy to, yes, but I am not blackmailing the life. Life should continue because we should live as a nation. And the part of life, yes, is all these indulgences. But we shouldn't forget the pain. We should live because we have pain, not because somebody is putting some morphine in our, informational morphine in our veins and saying, forget your pain, enjoy. We shouldn't be drug-driven nation. And what are trying now the official propaganda to do is to drag our nation by this sense of La vita è bella, everything, let's forget, let's turn the page, okay, it's in the past. Yarabalur is just a place in the Yerevan to bury somebody, like Sovetashen or other cemeteries. So let's forget, let's dance, let's enjoy, let's have Eurovision, let's have this European Championships. Yes, we should have everything, but not at the expense of forgetting our past. The pain should remain, because pain makes me and you alive. If you have bad tooth, which is denerved already, you don't feel pain. But it doesn't mean there is no inflammation under. So when somebody is trying to cut off the national nerves, which are painful, the source of pain, it means somebody is trying to switch off self defense mechanism of our nation, of our national body.
Okay. And finally, briefly, Mr. Ashotyan, a while back, the current ambassador at large to Armenia, Armen Ashotyan, he sat in the chair where you sat, and he said to me that the current government and the former governments are two sides of the same coin. He would argue that it was also the responsibility of the former administrations that led to the war and also to Pashinyan's victories in elections. So, in other words, if there was no Kocharyan and Ser Sargsyan administrations, perhaps there wouldn't be a Pashinyan administration today. We speak about the responsibility of Pashinyan and his government for the outcome of the war, for example, but isn't there also a share of responsibility of the former administrations?
Again, very good folded question. I should unfold it and try to reflect everything you mentioned. First of all, which Armen Ashotyan? Which one?
Well, at the time he was an opposition politician.
Which one? I want to understand. So Armen Ashotyan, who was serving as parliamentary opposition during our government? Which Ashotyan, who was a part of Nikol Pashinyan post-revolutionary euphoria, drinking a cup of coffee, saying that there is no need to be disturbed by the Nagorno-Karabakh negotiations. Everything is good, there is no proposal, and after that Lavrov disclosed that there was a proposal, papers delivered, still secretly. So we still don't know in 2019 what kind of proposal co-chairs made to Nikol Pashinyan. This version of Minsk Group co-chairman proposals is hidden from the public. I can't find it myself, even having all these kind of, channels, back channels. I can't find it. I want to know what was proposed in 2019 to Nikol Pashinyan. And it would be crucial to understand the roots of war. If not the roots, not the roots, but yeah, the environment, let me say. What was the reason that nobody from the ground forces stopped the war in time? Not West, not Russia, I mean 44 days war. We should understand that looking at that paper. Which Edmond Marukyan, the one who was criticizing Nikol Pashinyan just after the war, saying that he is a symbol of capitulation? It's a direct quotation from Edmond's, one of Edmond's speeches delivered in National Assembly. Which one who said that Nikol Pashinyan should resign because he brought the capitulation? Or this ambassador at large? So I don't honor the politicians which are changing their minds depending on the seats, you know.
But what about the point he was making?
Coming to the point. For now, we should understand which one is it. So the man who is changing his mind more frequently than the weather during the April, or now in Yerevan, how should be considered this source of information of assessment serious? Who knows next time what he will deliver? Who knows? Coming back, yeah, historically we can say that the guilt is on the Noé or Tigran the Great. So when Nikol Pashinyan is and his team, political suppliers, let me say, because Edmond Marukyan became not ambassador at large, but political supplier. Because if he is ambassador at large, ambassador, what does it mean? He should work outside and for foreign policy. When he is putting his nose every time in the local politics, in the domestic issues, when he is trying to be one of the Nikol Pashinyan horses taking the cargo burden of his sins, I don't think he's ambassador at all. Why I am as a citizen paying taxes to deliver him the salaries which are going to cover not his portfolio, but his political expedience. Why? So, coming back to the point, all the twisting and manipulation with the legacy on the negotiations of Nagorno-Karabakh problem are one of the priorities for Nikol Pashinyan now. Why? Because he failed, he consumed the legacy we left, and the legacy is written, you can't change it, it's proved, it's recorded, it's kept there, you know, like you can't change the year of foundation of the Yerevan because it's carved on the stones, to the stone. You can't change the legacy. It is written that the self-determination right of Nagorno-Karabakh people was one of the main principles of the regulation. It is written that this principle is not lower than other principles. The territorial integrity, but he likes to abuse this one, yeah, territorial integrity. He can't keep from the society his governmental program for 2021. You told me 2 questions above about elections. What he promised during last elections, you remember, about Nagorno-Karabakh? He promised self-determination rights, cessation for the surveillance, for the survival. He promised Hadrut and Shushi back during campaign as not governmental program, but campaign program. He promised what self-determination right means, group co-chairs principles, etc. What he is delivering now.
But politicians surely make a lot of promises. But what about the question of responsibility? Is it all just Pashinyan's fault, or is it a lot of people's fault?
You know, it's my fault also. We can take the question philosophically, politically. Yes, when somebody make a car accident because he's a bad driver, You can't blame the manufacturer. You can't blame. You can blame supplier. You can blame seller. You can blame the road builder. You can blame the engineer behind this road lights. You can do it. Yes, you can. You can blame the producer of alcohol he is drinking. But who is responsible finally? Who made the car crashed? Who made these victims? So to blame Kocharian and Sargsyan, it's already moved on. It means that somebody is looking for some excuses out himself. Let's go inside the politics, inside the minds of the politicians who are delivering this kind of assessment. What are they trying to do? They are trying to not to make Pashinyan guilty for this tragic situation, for this drastic situation. What they are trying to do, they are trying to spread the guilt as a butter all around the environment to make it thinner on Nikol Pashinyan, to make a layer of guilt thinner. Here is guilty, Levon is guilty. Okay, it's already thin. No, but it's not true. We can speak a lot, discuss a lot mistakes during Robert Kocharian governance, Sargsyan governance, but it's for the clever, intelligent people, it's not a modus operandi. If you want to map the future, what you want, if you want just, if somebody, not you, sorry to say it, if one wants just to justify that Nikol Pashinyan is as guilty as others, and so he should stay as a leader, you can manipulate with what you want. As I told you, producer, manufacturer, engineer of this car. But the driver is guilty. Driver had no license, driver was drunk, driver was irresponsible, and driver lost his navigation, let me say.
Well, Mr. Armen Ashotyan, I thank you for your time. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us on CivilNet.